Normally I don't interrupt the song because I like to let it play out, Heather B. But
That's a fact.
This pendulum had me in the mood when it first came out back in the day. And listen to these vocals.
No, so lonely.
Sway in the morning. FKA Twigs is here, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, yeah.
Come on. Come on. Some people, you can't put them in a category.
Not in the slightest.
If you had to attach a word, maybe it'd be enigma. Something different. You know, when I listen, sometimes you listen to music, some folks see colors. Some people, I don't know, some people I see words. Sometimes when I listen to music, the word may not have anything to do with the music, but when I first learned the word osmosis, as a child, as a kid, as a young man, it felt a certain way. When I started listening to your music, it was a similarity in what I felt when I would hear the word osmosis. I don't remember the definition of osmosis. I think it's when two cells fuse together.
They combine,
They combine. What is it, Mike Muse? You got an engineering degree. What does that mean? I mean,
yeah, two cells
put it
become
to work.
one.
No, you had it.
That's what it
Yeah,
is?
you got it. Yeah.
So perhaps it was, your music was a cell, and I was a cell. And then we went through a process of osmosis. And now she's here, Heather B.
I know.
So now we are one.
With one osmosis or it's osmoses?
Okay,
No.
that's what
Osmosis
you...
is the process. It's
Okay.
not the product.
Okay,
That's what
cool.
Google for.
All right, welcome to the show.
Hey, how are
She ain't
you?
care about all that.
Oh, man. You're from where originally?
I am from Gloucestershire in England.
In England. Is that, what part of England is that? I pretended like I would know. Even if I don't.
Well, it's like the countryside. I guess it's like in the Midlands.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And that's where you grew up? You went to school there? What was it
Yeah.
like going to school there?
It was like the countryside.
The countryside?
Yeah, I don't know if you've ever seen like Magnificent Seven or I don't know, Fantastic Five. Or
Yeah.
Did you ever read any of those books?
Yeah, no, I didn't read them.
It's okay.
You know, I was reading comic books. So
It's like a kind of like a country town in England, like I don't know, like Downton Abbey type place, you know, just like loads of fields,
A lot of walking.
a lot of walking, a lot of cottages and tractors and
That's my vibe.
cows and sheep and that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
what was your connection to, was there any connection? I grew up in Oakland, so you always had clubs, you had a lot of concert tours that came through Oakland, you had a lot of outlets.
Yeah.
What was your connection to the entertainment field growing up there?
I was a big daydreamer when I was a kid, so I think like when I was young I really loved like classical things like opera and ballet, but not really like in a traditional sense. Like I would always like put on weird shows for my parents and like I was an only child, so I was kind of all in my head, you know?
Yeah.
So I don't know, I didn't really have a big connection to the like entertainment in that way because it was pre-internet. So it wasn't like now how you just like go online and you can see everything and you can feel a part of something. It wasn't like that. I think I grew up watching like black and white movies and sort of just daydreaming about, you know, what it would be like to perform or do shows and stuff. But I was very like, you know, I was kind of like the odd one out where I'm from in a way.
You were the what?
I was the odd one out.
The odd one out.
Black sheep, sort of like, you know.
The black sheep.
Huh. Did that ever result in being bullied at all?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I was like, I'm from a very small town. I think like in where I lived, there was one other black girl where I lived in the whole place.
Damn.
Yeah.
Wow.
The chosen one. You know, that's how you put the narrative, right? Yeah. You were the chosen one.
Yeah, I don't know, but yeah, it was It was different, and I really couldn't wait to get out. I mean, I was lucky in the fact that like my parents are from a place called Birmingham, which is like a much more like multicultural sort of area.
Yeah.
So I still like with my family and stuff, I was still able to like connect with my culture. But actually, where I grew up and where I went to school, it was difficult. Yeah, for sure, it was difficult, and it was kind of it was pre-internet, so I just didn't really see a lot of people that looked like me, or you know, it was an unusual upbringing, but I'm grateful for it now, and like I couldn't wait to move out. Like I moved to London when I was 17.
Oh
Wow.
Yeah.
On your own?
Yeah, I moved with my mum.
Okay.
Yeah, just me and my mum, and I remember like we drove from where I was from to London.
How long was the ride?
It was like 3 hours, and we
Wow.
had like all our stuff in the car. And when I went to school, like none of the boys ever liked me ever. Like they always liked the blonde girls and stuff.
Oh,
so
gosh.
yeah, so I always felt like, you know, not good about myself. And I remember like we pulled up in South London, and my mum pulled up outside like a chicken shop to get us food so we could go to our like empty house in London and eat. And I remember like I was waiting for my mum in the car, and I remember like this really cute boy like knocked on the window, and I like rolled it down like that much, and he passed through his number. And I was like, oh my gosh, I was like, everything's gonna be different now.
Yeah. I'm popping now.
And it must be so interesting how now you've become such a humongous star, and so you represent like familiarity for a lot of people who didn't have it. Like you're talking about pre-internet, you felt so alone, but then now you have so many people that look at you as a reflection, especially a lot of women, including myself, who didn't have a lot of other women who were symbols of androgyny, so to say, who really accepted all these different elements, not only their divine feminine, but their divine masculine. It would play with it in their artistry. How would you describe your own divine femininity, divine masculinity, and maybe something that doesn't fit between those two?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think that like having the upbringing that I had, I kind of had to make a decision to be myself at a very young age, and it was a very brutal decision that when I was younger didn't pay off, and then like as now I'm getting older, it's paying off more and more. But I remember that time where probably when I was like 12 or 13, where I just had to like make this decision to do me, because either way, like I just knew like it was not going to be good. You know, like trying to fit in with where I was from was not going to be good, but then also, you know, trying to find out who I was, and more like how other people would find that uncomfortable, you know. But at least, I mean, I remember going on a school trip, and like us, all the kids like being able to wear whatever we wanted to wear. And I remember like I had these boxing boots, and I remember like I loved them. They were like Puma. They were like these red and black boxing boots.
Exactly
The ones I mean.
yes.
Yeah. And I was like, oh my gosh, I was like, these are like the best things that I've ever owned. And I remember like getting on like the coach and just everyone like laughing at me. And I just remember thinking, oh, okay. But then I thought, well, you know, like I like them. And I remember they were, you know, they were the point of a joke for, you know, an hour wherever we were going. But I just figured like that's better than, I don't know, I just figured that's better than me like straightening my hair and it raining and it going frizzy and someone saying something. Do you know what I mean? Like I also remember what that felt like, and that didn't feel good. So I thought, as long as if I'm like true to who I am, then you know, at least I can sleep at night. And in terms of like, you know, balancing my femininity and my masculinity, like I think, you know, my mum was a single parent, and so I grew up with my mum fulfilling both those roles.
Right.
My mum was, for a lot of my life, my mum and my dad. So for me, it was kind of like a given. I just thought that that's just kind of how it was, I think. So I was lucky in a way that it's only really like now when a lot of those conversations are coming up more that I realise that I was lucky that it was quite natural in my household, you know. I remember like coming home from school and my mum would have like rearranged all the furniture by herself with like no help, and like you know,
Gangster.
yeah, or even, you know, things like carrying stuff and doing things and fixing stuff in the house. Like my mum would just do it a lot of the time. So I just grew up like with those kind of gender norms, the barriers already being like broken, that you can do whatever, and that's fine.
That's fine. FKA Twigs is here.
Yeah.
Shit, I'm fat. Your voice, your talking voice, man. I'm calming down. My heartbeat went down.
We got some audio book, baby.
My mind is relaxed right now.
Feel peaceful.
Yeah, I feel good right now.
No, she's mindfulness in the flesh.
Yeah, man. Jeez. Everything I imagine, though, even listening to your album, I actually listened to this particular album in the dark, and it took me so many places. Oh my gosh, it took me. I had to turn the lights on. I thought I didn't know where I was. Really, really incredible project. Did you produce how much production you or how
I think I produced across like 7 or 8 of the 9 songs on that album. I had like some incredible collaborators, but I've always produced across like all of my music because I want it to sound like me. So it's important for me to have that hand in it as well. And I worked with some amazing people on it who helped me, but also I'm very passionate about just learning and becoming a better producer and musician and songwriter and stuff. So I can only really do that if I do it myself.
Sway complimented your voice, and I think we're all right. But what's your mad voice? When you get mad, how do you sound? Do you yell or scream ever?
Why should whisper it?
Get away from me.
That's even scary.
Out.
Yeah, I'm sure I can. I guess I can, but it takes a lot, you know.
Yeah.
It does take a lot, but I don't like to. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't like to.
When was the last time you was pissed off?
See, I'm weird. Like I have to like tell people that I'm not happy because otherwise they can't tell. So I have to like.
I get it.
Yeah,
it's like a warning.
It is like I give a warning, so I'll just say like I'm just letting you know that like.
You about to get fucked up.
Well, I always say, like my phrases. I always say like this isn't ideal.
Oh wow!
And then you
Yeah.
pause at the end.
Yeah, I just say like this is less than ideal right now.
Ooh, less than ideal.
Yeah. So I say that, and I feel like people know that like it's not great.
Right. The quiet before the storm.
Yeah, but I try not to get angry. You know?
Speaking of quiet, I saw you in Honey Boy, and I went to the screening where Shia was there and the director was there, and obviously he was dealing with a lot because that's based on his life and his upbringing, his childhood. So I was wondering if you two connected at all while you were doing your scenes or while you were filming, because it was so personal to him, that whole story with his father and like all the stuff that he had to go through. Did you guys like share any moments or anything behind the scenes?
Well, a lot of my scenes were actually with Noah. So I think my main focus like during that time was spending a lot of time with Noah, the young actor in the film.
Who plays young Shia.
Yeah, exactly. And he was like really sweet. So we did a lot of like bonding exercises. We went to like markets and stuff like that. But then it was really interesting because when we were filming, it's like with the roles that we played in the film, I just knew at a certain point with Noah, like, because he's almost like more confident than I am, you know. He's like a real like child star in that way. So kind of I remember when we got on set, I was like, okay, I feel like I need to like distance myself a little bit because otherwise he's gonna like run rings around me.
Right.
Yeah, so I remember like when we were kind of like,
It's real.
yeah, like a couple of days before the scenes, I remember thinking that, okay, I'm just gonna like start like distancing just so that he didn't feel like, we were like, I don't know, just the way the dynamics, like
because there's intimacy between you two, but it's more of a flirty, not like anything risque or anything. But yeah, you do have to be close with him.
Yeah, but even when we did that scene, I didn't really know, what was like gonna happen, and I had to like speak to his mom and stuff like that, and yeah, it was like a whole thing. But
You had to speak to his mom?
yeah, well, his mom was on set the whole time. She's a really lovely lady. But yeah, there was some scenes that were like of a
Risque nature?
a little bit. I mean, it didn't turn out that way, but
Like
we did
Less than ideal.
Less than ideal.
Yeah, it was, it's real life, it's not,
Yeah.
it's real life. So yeah, I had to like speak to his mom and stuff like that, but it was a good experience,
FKA Twigs is here. What made you title? What made you come up with this title? Break that down.
FKA Twigs. Well, my nickname has always been Twigs since I was like an older teenager because I crack my bones a lot.
I do the same.
Yeah.
It feels
You
good.
just snapped me out of my zone with that
And it's
right
very addicting.
Yeah, and you don't get
It's
arthritis
allowed.
from it either.
Don't you? I don't know. It's
You
what I
don't.
say.
You don't.
Well, that's great.
Well, how do you know that? That's
It's
what
an
they
urban
all.
legend, man.
But did you research it?
Yeah, I looked it up because I was concerned when I started doing it. I was like,
oh,
am I
okay.
going to be looking like this when I'm old? You know what I mean? Like,
Oh, okay. So that's where Twigs.
Twigs came from. Yeah, I had a friend who said that he was going to call me Twinge, and I was like, that's rubbish. So he was like, okay, Twigs. I was like, okay, cool. I'll do Twigs. And then the same friend got me a necklace, which I think I'm wearing today. I wear it almost every day. That said Twigs on it. And then I was working in like nightclubs, like serving drinks, and then people would say, what's your name? And I'd say Twigs from the necklace. And then it just stuck. And then like Facebook came out and I had Twigs as my Facebook. And then when I first came out as an artist, there was another band who had the name Twigs, so I just had to put something in the front of it.
FKA.
FKA. And at the time, like, it felt really like painful, but actually now, like, I really like it. It's something that I've grown into, and yeah, in the beginning it was difficult because I've always just been Twigs, and then people would call me like FKA in the street, and I'd be like,
it's not ideal.
You don't know me.
yeah.
And that's what formerly known as?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, I thought it was fucking known as.
Could be that.
The whole time, that's what I thought it was.
It could be
Oh
that
my
as well.
gosh.
Forever known as. Like, it doesn't.
Oh, okay.
I actually, going back to what you were saying before, I wanted something that just felt androgynous. And that's what I liked about Twigs, because it was just something you don't. No, it's not like feminine or
Yeah,
masculine.
you don't
it's
see a
just-
gender, yeah.
Yeah, so I wanted to just make sure that like it kept quite like gender neutral. So yeah, that's my name now.
We were talking about. I know. I don't like to put any music in categories. I just like to receive it. There's nothing conventional to me about you, which is what I like, and even in the music. One of my favorite songs is Fallen Alien. Sad Day is powerful to me. Cellophane, all these different songs give you all these different experiences, and knowing how close you work and how intimate you are in the studio. How do you know when you got it? Like, how do you know when you found the sound or found the structure?
I know because I stopped listening to all like the intricate details and I just enjoy it. When I make music, I feel like I'll listen to it and then I'll be like, okay, this bit's coming up. I just need to like fix that kick later. Like, I'll come back to that tomorrow. But then when all those little things go, that's when I know, oh, it's finished, because there's nothing in it that like aggravates me or I feel like I can get lost in the music.
How did you come up with the album? What's the concept between the behind the album title?
Okay, so I grew up, I went to religious schools. So Mary Magdalene, was always somebody that came up in Sunday school, and I was always very curious about her, and I remember asking my Sunday school teacher about her, and the answer was like, oh, you know, Mary Magdalene was a prostitute, and Jesus was nice to everyone, and it's more like testament to how cool he was that he was nice to people that were prostitutes. So I was like, okay.
Right.
Jesus was just hanging out with him?
Yeah, because he's
What's
nice.
up, baby?
He's nice and forgiving, you know? So I was like, okay, cool. I just felt like there was something more to it, and I think that as I grew older, I began to realize that often, especially like women that are really like powerful or have that special something, they can be like villainized, or you know, their narrative is twisted. And I think like the easiest way to like take validation away from a female is to use her sexuality against her, because even in today's society, if you do that, all of a sudden, you know, as a woman, you're made to feel like invalid, you know, but for a man that's powerful,
Right, or unlovable.
Yeah, exactly. So I just thought, oh, that must have happened to her. So I started to do some research, and I have a friend that's like a mystic in Seattle, and she just happened at the time to be doing some work around Mary Magdalene as well, and we started talking about how Mary Magdalene used herbs and oils
Absolutely.
and all these like incredible things to heal people.
Yep.
Yeah, and in many ways she was what we call now a doctor, in the fact that she combined a lot of different skill sets to heal people. So I was like, oh wow, that's fascinating. And then I started thinking about how like the narrative of being a woman throughout time is always so like can be so precarious, you know, like women's narratives are always changed and twisted. You never quite know the truth. And then I thought, well, the Bible is like arguably one of the most famous books in the world. And maybe this is one of the first times where this has happened on like a mass scale, where someone who in fact like funded a lot of Jesus's missions and was like the backbone of the movement then was like just painted as a whore. And I was like, well, that's where it all started going wrong in the narrative of women, that like the patriarchy was able to take her story, write about it in the Bible and twist it to the point where now, you know, we don't really know what the truth is. But I just felt very connected to that. And I also felt very connected just to the idea of her duality in terms of, for me, she represents the virgin and the whore. And for me as a woman, it's important that I embrace both those sides of myself and that both sides are valid and are active within me. And when I feel pure and fresh and, you know, like a fresh flower and desirable, but also when I feel all-knowing and dangerous and seductive and powerful, when I combine those two things, that's when I'm at my best. And you know, when I was making Mary Magdalene, I was coming out of a lot of like health issues and, you know, a long-term relationship, and just to think about these things as like a young woman, I just found it very like comforting and encouraging, you know.
Wow, FKA Twigs, my new hero, just stopped by.
My kind of gal.
Unfortunately, you got to come back. Next time you're in New York, come hang out with us.
I'd love to.
Yeah, we just love hearing you talk. Mike Muse, you got a quick question?
Yeah, that was beautiful. I was sitting back. I kind of I let out like a laugh. I just never heard Mary Magdalene described in that context, on that construct. And just listening to your like how you perceive identity and androgyny and non-binary and construct. I'm just curious, like, where is that coming from? Like, did you feel stifled and restricted as a youth, right? And you feel you need to speak on that and advocate for that in your own unique way? Like, I'm just curious about that.
I think it's like the opposite. I was very lucky. Like my mum would let me do whatever I wanted, but not like in a bad way, you know, like not like in a there were no rules. I was like a really good child and I never got in trouble, and I was always very like quiet and quite shy. But if I said to my mum like, okay, on Saturday, like I want to be a cat, my mum would like help me make a cat outfit, and I'd be able to be a cat all day if I wanted to, and I'd go to bed like a cat and eat like a cat, and I was just able to, you know, have an imagination, and it's something that I guess like, you know, now can be seen as like a privilege in a way that I don't feel like self-conscious.
Yeah.
You know, like I just think everyone should be able to like
Beautiful.
play. Wow. Everyone should be able to play.
Yes.
That's
beautiful.
Exactly.
I don't feel self-conscious.
Yeah.
I
Beautiful.
love that.
I gotta strive for
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Like, shit.
Yeah, that makes me want to have children, just to practice that.
Yeah.
That's beautiful,
Self-conscious.
Twigs. Beautiful.
Huh?
You feel self-conscious sometimes, Sway?
Yeah, at times. That's that takes work.
It's a very
It's a
freeing
human
place.
Everybody's like self-conscious.
Yeah, that's what you strive for.
It's
you
a
know,
very
like
freeing place.
freeing place. When I was a youth, my auntie told me at 5 years old, Quasi, my first cousin over there, Auntie Lucy, told me. I asked her, how are we supposed to live life, and she said, strive for divinity. And I was at 5 or 6 years of age, and I was like, well, what does that mean? And then every day she would give me you got to figure that out too for yourself.
Right. Yeah.
But to not be self-conscious was...
Sometimes people could misconstrue that and pass it off as a person that doesn't care, but it's actually just the opposite.
Yeah.
When you let go of that place and that negative spirit that's on you of being self-conscious, once you get rid of that and you have that freedom, it's not that you don't care.
Yeah.
It's actually what you care about is so important and so upfront and so present that the other distractions are like almost beneath you.
Ego.
Yeah, it's
it's beneath.
So it's just like, oblivious to anything that's opposite of what your purpose is.
FKA Twigs up in here educating us, yo.
Bong.
You see what we
Wu-Tang
doing?
for the kids.
These gems, kid.
TED Talks for free.
Wake up, kid. You hear what's happening right here. Where you shop?
Oh, do you know that? It's really interesting. I found this like guy online that makes these like crazy like patchwork quilts. I try like not to buy anything that is new. So I like to buy things either upcycled or secondhand.
Ah, nice.
Yeah, so there's this guy, he like makes all these patchwork things, but the weird thing is I noticed today, this guy's from Korea, he's called Rosh Boy, but don't buy all his stuff because I really like it.
Yeah, you just told everybody, but
What's his name again?
His name's Rosh Boy. I want him to do well, but also like he only makes one thing a month, so.
Oh, damn.
But I noticed today that it says Cotswold country on here. That's where I'm from. But
wow.
Which is so weird because I think this guy's from Korea.
Yeah.
So how weird is that? I put this top on today and I was like, oh, it says Cotswold on it. That's the country where I'm from.
Huh.
So look, you can kind of see that's what it's like.
That's bananas.
Wow.
What the?
It's
Isn't
dope.
that so strange?
Yeah.
Wow. That's beautiful.
So yeah, I don't know. I definitely think that it's nice to like I think it's good to like support young designers. But I also think, and I think it's important to like if you're into fashion, it's really fun to like get like special pieces that you're going to have for a very long time and look after. But I also definitely think that like it's important to like not be worried about wearing the same thing a few times and having people see, because I think there's like this culture now that you have to wear something once and then you can't do it again. Like it's fun to be able to test yourself, to switch things up. And why are you laughing?
Because I had the T-shirt I had on yesterday.
Bring melanin
I had
back.
a T-shirt that said "Bring melanin back" with a
yeah.
fist of power on it. So I wanted to wear the hoodie today.
Yeah.
But I took it off because I wore the T-shirt yesterday.
The hoodie would have been fire.
No, I was self-conscious.
So
That's what I'm talking about.
Get free, Sway. Get free.
Mind over matter, baby.
You and Twigs could have battled. You could have showed it a little
No,
bit.
that's why I was gonna wear it, because the color scheme, the
Yeah.
whole shit I got on was you.
You fire. You fire.
And if
today,
I would have
so-
had the hoodie,
So what your T-shirt say today?
just say raw. Just says raw. But I was gonna wear my I'm so Oakland shirt too.
But you didn't.
But I didn't wear that because I
Self-conscious.
wore it
Damn,
before.
Tracy.
You a hater.
I think it's fine.
I'm an observer.
Thank you,
I think
Twiz.
it's fine to wear the same thing.
Okay.
Me too.
As long as you wash
Repeat
'em.
outfits, not mistakes.
Just not your drawers.
Okay. Thank you. FKA Twigs. Yo, it's awesome having you here.
Yeah, man. Thank you
Really
for
awesome
coming back
having.
again.
Yeah, it's
Get
fun.
the new project, Magdalene, is an experience. Don't look at it like an well, for me at least, it's not an album. It's an experience.
Beautiful.
Play it from front to back, and then play it again. What I did from back to front.
Nice.
Did you?
I'll always do that.
Yeah, that's his thing.
Yeah. I listen from back to front, front to back.
Make
It's
sure
an
it's seamless,
it's
baby.
an interesting journey. I know you got another interview, but thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Continue success.
Yes.
Was it Jimmy Fallon I saw you on?
Yeah.
That was incredible performance. Keep going. Keep going.
Thank you
okay,
very
you
much.
have allies in us.